Attention, please.
And now, it's Cutter's Rockcast.
Nice. Where are you, man?
I'm in Green Bay, Wisconsin, or just south of Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The
Cool.
show
Wisconsin.
that this will air on airs nationally, but this is where I live.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, I've been to Wisconsin a couple times.
nice. I don't think you've been here though, if I don't remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm in love with
Maybe-
the band too much that I would have seen you if that happened.
Yeah, Green Bay, maybe not.
I saw you guys, I believe, years ago at the rave in Milwaukee. I think,
Hmm.
for
Yeah,
me remembering
rings a bell.
correctly. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. Dude, Matt from Dinosaur Pile-Up, thank you. It's good to see you. It's good to meet you.
Yeah, dude, you too. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. First of all, listen, being that you're English, I just got to make sure with some of the new rules in place, there's no tariff on us talking, right? That's okay. I think that's fine.
As far as I'm aware, man, it's still okay.
Okay, good. I need
It's
my
changing
Dinosaur
every day,
Pile-Up
though.
fix. It is changing every day. I just want to say this to get into this conversation. Ever since Celebrity Mansions came out, if I need a fire up, for whatever reason, my brain has automatically gone not to one of the singles, but to the song "Heavy Metal Cassette." That's
Oh,
the
fuck
song.
yeah.
Like if I need something to just, I'm going to the gym, I got to clean, I got whatever. It's like I don't know
Yeah.
what to listen to. Let me turn on Heavy Metal
Yeah.
Cassette, and then I'll figure it out from there.
Yeah. That should have been one of the singles. It should have been one of the singles. The Thrash Metal Cassette. Yeah, that's a killer tune, man. I love that song. It's fun to play.
Fantastic. I don't know if it reminds me of driving my '86 Mercury Lynx about 15 years past its prime with a cassette player in it. And listening,
Heck yeah.
I don't know what it is, man, but that song
Yeah.
gets me every single time.
Yeah,
You guys had a lot of success with that album, though.
we did. Yeah, it was a really positive moment for us as a band. It was kind of a shame. The timing of it, I never really realized how bad the timing of it was with everything kind of touring wise shutting down with COVID and stuff. Because really, when I think about it, that album came out in July, or June or July 2019, and we came off the road December. We finished in Canada with Offspring and Sum 41 in December of that year, and then that was it. And then we were kind of out. So really, we only kind of got 6 months of touring, 5-6 months of touring off that record, which is a shame because it really connected real well. So it was a super positive moment for us. It was awesome.
It did, yeah. I guess I didn't think about that you only got to tour.
Yeah, me neither. I only kind of like really thought about that recently. I was like, damn, like we only got like 6 months touring from that record. That was kind of a shame. But we'll be back.
You better be.
Yeah.
Of course, prior to that, like this is the song that I found, Dinosaur Pile-Up, was 11:11.
Nice, right? Yeah.
That song started popping up on stuff, and I don't remember why. I was just like, I don't know what this song is, but I like this band.
Yeah. That I feel like that was 11:11 was the first time we kind of really sort of started to break into the American market properly and like properly develop a fan base and the US and get like American airplay. That I think 11:11 was our first sort of shot at that, and then Celebrity connected pretty well too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, it's been 6 years since Celebrity Mansion. You guys just released a new single a few weeks ago called "About to Lose It." And I know I follow you on Instagram. I saw the story, and I know there's been a couple other articles written about it. Corain had one, and the fact that you had some health issues.
Yeah.
Is that the main reason why there's been such this pause in Dinosaur Pile-Up news and music?
Yeah, basically. Obviously the COVID thing kind of stopped everyone in their tracks for a couple of years. But during, that doesn't really mean like it meant you had to stop touring for a while, but I guess it didn't mean you had to kind of go quiet as a band. But during COVID, I started to get really, really unwell. Sort of 2020, like straight off the road. But like I said, we got back off the road December 2019, and through 2020, I started to kind of get real sick, which had actually begun in 2018 whilst I was touring. But in 2020, it hit me pretty badly. And I was hospitalized for a while, a couple of times in 2021. And I just had to kind of take a couple of years out because I couldn't really get around it, like you try, like with social media and stuff, and particularly in COVID times, there was nothing else to do but be on social media. But
True.
it's hard to kind of keep up the pretense or whatever you would call it of sort of being good when you're not good. Like health will just kind of knock you for six with that stuff. You can't really hide from it. So yeah, I got really, really unwell and I had to kind of just take a couple of years out, and it's taken this long for me to kind of get on my feet again and get the record finished. So it's definitely been a more elongated pause than we would have liked, but it is what it is.
So for anybody who doesn't know, you were diagnosed with ulcerative colitis,
I was, yeah.
so I have celiac disease.
Oh, no way.
And they're in this kind of the same family of diseases a little
Yeah.
bit, as far as digestive issues and things like that.
Yeah.
So when I saw your story, it was like, okay, I get where this is going, because when I was diagnosed in 2010, it was sort of the same thing where I'm sick, you're sick, you're sick, you're sick. And then I don't know if you had to do this too, where you went through a series of tests where they tested literally everything that existed under the planet before they
Oh, yeah.
what was actually.
Yeah. Well, that's the mystery of autoimmune diseases, right? Because obviously celiac and ulcerative colitis and Crohn's and rheumatoid arthritis and blah blah blah. Like all of these are autoimmune diseases, which are massively on the rise. I read a statistic. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff about this now, and I was listening to one a couple of weeks back that there's the percentage of increase in autoimmune diseases globally is between 4 and 10% every year as a global population, which means if you go off that logic, within 10 years, the population of people on the planet that have autoimmune diseases could potentially have doubled from where it is right now, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, it's kind of wild because like we don't know a whole lot about autoimmune diseases. Thus, like you said, when you get diagnosed, you end up having to do endless tests to try and figure out what the hell it is. And that's sometimes almost the hardest bit when you don't know what it is and you're trying to jump through all the hoops and being knocked around from doctor to doctor and diagnosis to diagnosis and theory to theory. And it's so, it's horrible because you're really sick. No one can tell you what the hell it is. And everyone's sort of just like shooting random ideas of what it might be. And it's like, doesn't feel right. So yeah, that whole journey of discovery, I'm sure with you too, like it took a long time for me. I was originally diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which apparently with ulcerative colitis is quite a common diagnosis. So
yeah, it's funny you say that because my wife's convinced I have IBS because even with, celiac disease, I can be on a perfect whole food, no issue diet, and I'm still not okay a lot of times. You know what I mean?
Huh.
Not to get too technical or too graphic. But so I was just reading, a bunch of stuff about IBS and ulcerative colitis. I had a doctor about a year ago want to test me for that, and it just came back negative then, but who knows? So yeah, it's very similar as far as those two are concerned, Crohn and ulcerative colitis. But yeah, the autoimmune disease stuff is insane. For me, it was, the internet was the internet, but it wasn't the internet now. I was at Barnes and Noble. I had a 1-year-old child, and I was at Barnes and Noble with my baby, basically letting her play with the stuffed animals and books, and while I sat there and read everything.
Oh God,
fine, immune diseases, on celiac disease. Because like when I was diagnosed, it was, hey, you have celiac disease. Well, what's that? Well, it means your body has an intolerance to gluten and it can't handle it. What's gluten? You know that stuff that's in everything? Yeah, it's that. Great, thanks. Here's a number 2 nutritionist. Good luck.
Right. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, damn, man. Like the depth of the subject matter, when you start digging into the whole
The wormhole you go down.
Oh my god, dude! Like, whoa! Like that. Saying that that podcast that I was listening to, a lot of it was about gluten, because obviously there's many different types of gluten.
Yes.
And it's only the wheat type, the certain types that you're intolerant to. But what's interesting, humans as a race, none of us are tolerant of that gluten. It's just some people are even more sort of sensitive, like yourself, for instance, creating celiac. Like none of us are actually, none of us can actually tolerate gluten fully. It's just some of us can kind of handle it a little bit better than others. But yeah, as soon as you start reading about it, like, I mean, that must have been tough doing it at Barnes and Noble, like without a fully fledged internet to like jump into. But like, damn, it's just, yeah, it's I spend a lot of time now kind of listening to podcasts, reading about it, about health in general, diet in general, stress, the effects of stress, lifestyles, but particularly about sort of autoimmune disease and diet and stuff. And it's just wild how little we know about them now and how much they're growing. It's wild to me that the same medical therapies today are the same medical therapies that we've had since the 1970s, which is essentially steroids and biologics, which is wild. Like nothing has really changed. We just don't know enough about it. And it's also wild. Like when I was diagnosed and going through it, I was, like I said, first diagnosed with Crohn's, then to UC. At exactly the same time, my best friend was diagnosed with celiac, and another friend of mine was diagnosed with Crohn's and had surgery, like whilst I was going through it. So like two direct friends of mine in my like close circle both also developed an autoimmune disease. And I was like, wow, that's kind of like, you know, the likelihood of that happening is kind of wild. Just shows you how many people, since I've made the videos on Dinosaur and sort of put it out there that I was sick, the amount of messages I've had from people also saying, hey, I've just been diagnosed with ulcerative colitis is crazy. Like the sheer numbers of people getting diagnosed with autoimmune diseases now. And again, all of them are like, I don't know what the freak's going on. I have no idea like what's happening. And it's just kind of wild.
Now, do you find that sort of helped you, you know, as far as finding a community of people that also are dealing with the same thing you're dealing with?
Massively. Yeah. I never jumped onto like, I don't have Facebook. I don't use Facebook at all. But a lot of people told me that there's a lot of but a lot of people told me there's a lot of forums on Facebook. There's Reddits, you know, there's a lot of communities online. A lot of those I haven't really jumped into that much, but having direct contact with people like friends of mine that also developed it, or like even strangers now I've sort of given advice to and taken advice from, blah, blah, blah. Just finding other people, the community of people that are kind of going through the same thing is massively, massively helpful, because when you're going through something like that, it feels incredibly isolating and you feel incredibly sort of alone going through it. So talking to people directly who are like, oh yeah, I've had that exact experience, or like I've gone through that myself, or I've done that exact thing, or whatever. I'm on this medication, blah blah blah. Like that's hugely helpful, massively, massively beneficial. So yeah, I benefited a lot from that. My friend Will, he has Crohn's. I spent a lot of time going through it with him. But I've had like, since me getting sick, I've had friends and friends and friends being like, oh, I know this guy, Matt, he's got ulcerative colitis. And I've just had like random people hook me up with phone calls to like people that have just been diagnosed and stuff. And I always say, hey, because like I know I've been through that, you know, it's horrible. It's a really horrible experience. And when it goes real bad, like unfortunately mine did for a minute, and I was in hospital for months at a time. That's tough. It was, you know, a really rough experience, particularly in COVID when you couldn't have visitors and no one could speak to anyone or go anywhere. It was wild. Like I literally couldn't see anybody. I was just in a hospital ward. It was rough. tough experience. So like I'm always down to, I always, if I can help people talking through their experience and stuff, I think it's really worthwhile because I've benefited off that myself.
So as a creative person,
Yeah.
you take an experience like that and apply that to your craft, apply that to what you do. Because obviously, as a writer, music, books, art, poetry, whatever, you sort of take it, right? It's comedy, right? That's the big one where you take trauma and then
Yeah.
jokes about it. Well, same thing in music. So how then do you take that and apply that back to your songs? See, there's a little anger going on about to lose it. It feels like.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, that's About to Lose It. I was really specific that I wanted that to be the first song to come out of this new record because it felt like a very accurate portrayal of my sort of the space that I was in, um, mentally over the last couple of years. So I was really adamant that that was the first track. Um, when it comes to writing and stuff, I had this conversation recently. It's not like I wanted to. Um, it's not like I wanted to write a really negative, bummed out album. Like I've been through some really rough stuff, and I'm going to write a really depressing album about it. That's not really what the record is, and that's not what I wanted to do. Like I'm still, I'm still myself, so I was still able to tap into those elements of like humor. I think some Dinosaur songs there was a kind of thread of humor through them,
Yeah, can you hear that?
and I was still able to tap into that. But what I sort of gained was another perspective that maybe I didn't have before. A perspective of having gone through some really rough like a rough period of time. So the album sort of it didn't lose anything. It sort of gained this other perspective that I was able to write about and throw into songs and like, you know, um there's a sort of apathy that I maybe didn't have before. Like when you're completely strung out and like really, really unwell and strung out on all these medications and your sort of lowest or one of your lowest points at least, you can there's a kind of like screw it type of feeling. You get like, oh well, it can't get any worse than this right now. So that's kind of a perspective that I maybe hadn't had before. And I think parts of this album have definitely taken on that character a little bit.
So what is it about the song about to lose it then that you wanted to make sure was the first song?
Well, it's just like it's such a pent up song and it's got so much the intro particularly is just like a really visceral, like
It's a heavy metal riff, man. There's no question.
Yeah, it's a kick-ass riff and like the intro is really intense and I love that. And I was like, how does, this is how I've kind of felt for the last couple of years and I've been going through this whole thing, but no one really's known about it. How do I want the first thing that people hear to feel? And I came up with that intro. Like I just wanted it to be the most ridiculously kind of intense beginning. Like, oh, we haven't heard anything from Matt for like 5 years, and then the first thing they hear is this super super intense thing. Yeah, I really wanted it to have that intense energy, and in Bad to Lose It, like I wrote a lot about stuff I was working through, I guess, in my head during those bad times, during that time in hospital and stuff, and like, um, you know, like kind of just revisiting themes of like being at your absolute capacity physically and mentally, like being right on the edge of what you can sort of handle and still being there, like still staying in that space because you have to, because otherwise you'll either go crazy or die. But like it's hard to stay in that space for a long time, and I kind of felt like I had to be in that space for for too long when I was ill. So I wrote About to Lose It, the verses about to lose it, about that being in that space and what that was like. And I I also like I have a hard time letting people down, and due to like especially the fans, like dinosaur fans, like canceling shows because I'm sick or whatever like that. And I wrote, the bridge of the song is about that. So I was kind of revisiting all this stuff I was having to think about whilst I was out of the game, and I wanted that to be the first song that people hear on this new record because I think it was important to kind of catch people up to where I was at.
From a music standpoint, like I mean, we talked about the riff. It does kick you in the face as
Yeah,
soon as you hit play on it. But then there's that kind of poppier sounding chorus that's there.
yeah,
The band as a whole, Dinosaur Pile-Up, musically, I feel like you guys have done a good job of like going back to even thrash metal cassette. It's like
yeah,
intense and screamy and crazy guitar and all that and drums. But it comes back. It always comes back. There's always a catchiness to it. That's something
yeah.
that's hard to really consciously think about, but you guys tend to do it.
Yeah, I do think I think it's really difficult to like find that balance. I feel like I spent many years like kind of crafting my songwriting about that point. Like I love heavy metal,
Right.
but I also love like a Weezer chorus. Like I'm a huge Weezer fan, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but you're right, like I love thrash metal and heavy metal, but how do I have that and like the Weezer thing and that sort of pop thing? And I spent a long time kind of crafting that, and I feel like songs like Thrash Metal Cassette and About to Lose It are good examples of that. I saw some comment somewhere saying, what the hell was it? It was like Pantera and Weezer like had a
Baby.
baby, and it was About to Lose It, and I was like, that's awesome. That feels great because that's kind of the vibe. Like I really love killer thrash metal, but I also love Beverly Hills. That's where I want.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So um, yeah, I just kind of wanted to mix that vibe, and also like with other songs on the record and previous other songs in Dinosaur's catalog, like Back Foot, for instance, or even the song Celebrity Mansions or Stupid Heavy Metal, Broken Hearted Loser Punk, or
I was just thinking about that song when you said how much you love heavy metal. I'm like, oh yeah, stupid
yeah,
heavy metal, broken hearted loser punk.
yeah,
Seems like
like
an seems like an anthem from when I was 17 years old.
yeah, man, and they have that kind of element of there's elements of like heavy metal there. There's elements of like some old school hip hop stuff in there.
Oh sure.
There's like humorous elements, and it's when you start to get into like the realm of mixing heavy metal, humor, and hip hop, you can really easily write a terrible record, So like you got to be so careful of getting that right, and I feel like I really enjoy that challenge of like finding the right balance because it really is that's a thin path to walk, and
Yeah.
either side of it is not good. And I spent a lot of time like, yeah, like finessing that, and I really I love that challenge because they're some of my, I love a lot of music, but like they're some of my favorite things: heavy metal, thrash metal, old school hip hop, that pop thing. How do you mix all of those into something that's kick ass? And it makes me think back to like Beastie Boys Fight for Your Right.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh my God, so cool. And it's such a great mix of like that fun party kind of old school hip hop, we're not taking this too seriously thing with like those big heavy metal guitars, but it's somehow not heavy metal. And it's like this amazing mix. Like, I'm so inspired. I love the Beastie Boys like so much. But that song particularly is such a huge inspiration for me. Or like old school Run DMC and stuff like that.
Right.
I've gotten sidetracked here, but
No,
what I'm
no,
saying
come
is
on,
like,
because even take a song like No Sleep Till Brooklyn, right? You got Kerry King
right,
Slayer playing lead guitar on it.
there you go. Totally. Like it's that kind of mix. And you could so easily do that so wrong.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you could screw that up so easily. but they didn't. They just got it right on the nose, and it's nailed. So yeah, I spent like I feel like I've been digging in a lot to like lots of different influences on this record, but I'm still digging into like I feel like that's my like one of my favorite things is like mixing those elements that I love, and I've always loved that stuff since I was a kid. But it's like I was never really. I feel like it's taken me like 20 years to figure out how I actually can like mix them all together and it doesn't suck.
There does seem to be this thing about specifically English alternative hard rock music. And I don't use the word alternative as in like Imagine Dragons, but like just alternative, just different. And between like Dinosaur Pile-Up and Biffy and you know Boston Manor, and there's these artists that you guys seem to be able to live in that world a little bit, where it's like, hey, you like heavy metal? Cool, listen to this. You like Oasis? Okay, here, listen to this. You love Weezer? Okay, listen to this. You love Red DMC? Listen to this. There does seem to be this like, I don't know what it is about that area, but this like little pocket of artists. None of you sound the same, but yet you can all hear sort of that similar kind of idea.
I don't know why that is. Like, obviously, I know a lot of those bands' names and stuff, and I guess it's just what comes out through like the time, or like I guess I wonder when everyone was growing up and what they were listening to, whether it was the same stuff or like similar stuff, whatever.
Well, like even with the way like a genre like metalcore has gone, you can hear that somebody was listening to maybe Lamb of God or Pantera, but also we're listening to Ludacris or there's these or Ministry, or Nine Inch Nails, there's electronic elements,
Totally.
You can sort of hear the influences of the time frame of, all right, that person is probably 42 years old and was listening to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
But at the same time, there are so many artists that have been able to create these things all their own off of that, and Dinosaur Pile-Up's right up there.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, that's I like that's a really good point with the metalcore stuff that's happening now, and like that electronic influence, particularly like Ministry as a reference, like that. Yeah, it's just super interesting how people carve out their own stuff and they form it into their identity. And I think Dinosaur's done that in its own way too. Like obviously nothing like the metalcore stuff, but when I think of like who's doing that thing where it's like mixing heavy metal and hip hop and blah 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 and doing it in the right way and that kind of that 90s guitar alternative rock thing, like, and I think Dinosaur's we've ended up in a really cool place where it's like, oh yeah, that's like it's kind of recognizable and that's our thing, and I often wonder, like, whether I was thinking about the humor element of Dinosaurs, or at least some of the songs recently. We have a single coming out really soon that's, I guess, it's kind of humorous. Maybe that's why I'm thinking about it so much. But I was like, where's that come from? Like, I was obsessed with President's United States debut album. I don't know if you ever listened to that record. Oh my God. I still listen to it like today. Peaches and Lump and all of that. Me and my wife Kay, like we literally, as soon as we get in the car, we play that same record.
That's
every trip. Oh, it's such a good record. I've been listening to it for like 30 years now.
Speaking of cassette, I totally had that on cassette tape. Listen,
no way.
Aforementioned Mercury Lynx. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I love that record, and it's got such a humorous side to it. Same with like Eminem, I love Eminem, and a lot of those influences like creep through sometimes, just interesting how it all comes out.
What about the rest of the year for 2025 for Dinosaur Pile-Up, touring, all that?
So we have a UK headline tour in September, and that's unannounced right now, but I think that will be announced in maybe this Thursday.
Well, as much as I wish this show aired in the UK, it does not.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's okay. So we don't have loads. We have the UK tour. I think 2026 is going to be more touring heavy, and especially getting out to the US and stuff like that. And getting into festivals and stuff. So I think this year is just going to be like UK headline run, get the record out. Yeah, and like just kind of concentrate on sort of getting everything ready, like getting everything going again, because obviously I sort of stepped out for so long.
Right.
I mean, aside
got to get those legs back under you.
Yeah, right, exactly. And aside from that, like I'm doing a lot of touring with my wife, Karen. She's kind of picking up right now and doing a bunch of touring. So I'm out with her, like helping her out with that.
Okay.
So the quietness of Dinosaur is okay. We've got that September run, and aside from that, I'm kind of doing everything online with Dinosaur and helping Kay out with her touring and stuff.
Fantastic. Your wife is she's solo art? I don't know.
Solo artist, yeah.
Okay.
Karen Dio, yeah.
Right.
We literally just got back like 2 days ago or something from. She was out with Limp Bizkit. We were out with Limp Bizkit for a month.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is super fun. I love Limp Bizkit, so that was a trip. So I was helping her out with that, which was good fun.
Now, Fred Durst on this tour, was that his actual hair, or was he wearing a wig? Because it's hard to tell. It moves really well, you know. Like
it moves really well. Yeah. It's a wig, but it's a good one.
Matt Bigland from Dinosaur Pile-Up, about to lose. It's available now. New record later this year, and we'll look for more coming in the future. When you guys get over to the States, let's do this again.
Hell yeah, sounds good.
Cutter's Rockcast.
Don't forget to tune in exactly